Welcome to Module 7 of the Bucket Ministry Training. Today we're going to be talking about GIS data collection and how we log information from recipients of the bucket filters. So this is a very simple process, but we're able to effectively capture recipients' information and then be able to share that with our team on the ground, with donors here and in other countries. And how we do that is with a very simple barcode attached to one of the filters. And at that point of distribution, we go ahead and use a small electronic tablet to capture information from the recipient of the bucket filter. And this survey takes a minute to 2 minutes to collect this information. And at that point, we then have a baseline of that family's health, if they have any waterborne disease in the family, or if there's any major issues that we need to note. We also ask them if they attend church, if so, what church they attend, and then what is the denomination of that church. So in this process, we're capturing all this information. So in this training, we're going to talk about how that happens, how the tablet works. But before we get started with that, I want to talk real briefly about what informed consent is. And for us, informed consent is very important, although not very important in many of the countries that we work in. Informed consent really discusses a recipient giving us the permission to collect their information and collect a photograph from them. So we have a very brief informed consent conversation asking permission to capture this survey information from the recipient. And then we will go ahead and log that in the survey. So if ever it comes up that anyone asks if we had permission to share this information, we have pre-collected that information. So the tablets that we use to be able to do this are typically Samsung Tab A tablets. This is a 7-inch. We also use the 8-inch. We like the smaller size just because they pack easier on airplanes. And because we work in the field, we work in environments with very high humidity. We work in environments that are a little challenging to electronics. We like to always have these protective covers like the OtterBox covers on the outside of the tablets. And then from here, we use an application on this tablet called Survey 123. And we're going to train a little bit later on that application. But each one of these tablets with that application on there holds a license. So all of the tablets that we use and all the tablets that we issue to our partners will be numbered. And that number on the tablet corresponds with that license number. So whenever you use a tablet that we have lent out or you buy tablets from us, please keep that number on there because that tells us the corresponding license number. And then when we're in the field collecting data, we always leave the tablets on airplane mode. And then we will connect to Wi-Fi whenever we need to upload data or we need to update our surveys to make sure we're using the most current version of the survey. So in the process of collecting data, this happens in either group or individual distributions with the families. And each survey, like I said, takes about 1 to 2 minutes to collect the information. When you first start, these surveys will take 8 to 10 minutes. But as you get better, as you get more efficient with asking questions and getting the proper responses, you'll get quicker and quicker. And we have seen people after just 2 or 3 surveys get down to being able to collect these in about 2 minutes. So this happens in our process before we distribute medicines. We collect information, and also before we distribute the bucket filter, we collect information. And just so you understand, when you're doing group distributions like this, you control crowd flow with when you hand out the bucket filter. So we want to make sure that we hand out the individual recipient's bucket filter after they have their survey, because we want to collect all this information so we know where the buckets are, so we know something about the family, so when we go back to follow up, we have a baseline or starting information. In this process, we do this before the medicine's distributed. So we have someone that's calling people's names from a list, and from that list, each person will come up, they will sit down with the survey collector, and the survey collector will go ahead and log the survey and then ask the recipient to take their bucket filter and go to medicines to collect their medicines. It's really just that simple. But how we determine how many of the survey collectors and how many of the tablets we need is based on the number of recipients of the bucket filters. So the more bucket filters that you're going to hand out, the more survey collectors you're going to need, because it's just going to take longer and you don't want to keep those people trapped there for an extended period of time. So in a small distribution, let's say 50 homes, you could get away with having maybe 1 or 2 tablets, and that won't take long to collect all that survey information. But in a larger distribution, maybe 300 to 400 recipient families, you might need 8 to 10 tablets to collect surveys, just so you can get people in and out of your presentation area efficiently and in a timely fashion, so they don't just grow impatient and leave on their own. So the last thing I want to talk about with this tablet before we train on this is we also want to capture the recipient's picture. And this sounds easier than it really is, because I will tell you from my personal experience, it's very difficult to get some people to smile. And we want to make sure that you understand that you're going to want to show pictures of the recipients to your donors, to your team, and to your people. And we don't want a bunch of grumpy looking people on the pictures. So when you take their picture, you're going to ask them to hold the bucket filter with the filter facing out, and then ask them to smile. And you might need to be a little goofy, be a little clown-like to get them to smile, but regardless, when you take pictures, try to capture them smiling. So the next section that we're going to transition into now is actually training on the tablet itself.